Hi, Tracy. Thank you for coming in today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
So, I'm just going to go over the informed consent with you real quick, just to make sure that you understand everything that's going to be happening today. So, signing that form means that you've consented to video audio recordings. The excerpts from these recordings or descriptions of them will be used by my university. Any part of this conversation that is recorded will be kept confidential. So nothing that you say will go beyond the scope of myself or my institution. And I will not disclose any information that may identify me in this mock counseling session. And I understand that the use of Zoom and recording counseling sessions meets both the HIPAA and FERPA guidelines, and that you understand that if the recording of the mock counseling session activates any sort of suicidal ideations or other potential harmful thoughts, I will reach out to a professional in my area immediately. Does that all sound okay to you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So what brings you into me today, Tracy?
So recently I've been kind of contemplating thoughts that have been coming. I feel like more so after ages like 21.
Mhm.
I've kind of been feeling lately that I guess with more responsibilities and moving out from home, you start to get feelings that things are changing, like life is changing. So I kind of wanted to speak to someone who can just talk to me about maybe if it's something normal. I'm pretty sure that other people also feel this like change in life once you like hit a certain age, or maybe it's a constant change. Like who knows? But um, a lot of the feelings consist of like stress and anxiety because it's like am I making the right choices now in order to be successful later?
Mhm.
And
Okay.
yeah, it could be kind of tough sometimes because it's just a question of like mistakes, but at the same time I also believe that in order to like grow, we do make mistakes.
Yeah,
So
of course.
yeah.
So when did these feelings first start for you?
I would say they started probably once I once I moved out from home and started living on my own. Probably I'd say like a year ago.
Okay.
Mhm.
And would you say that these feelings have affected your daily life or decisions that you make in your daily life?
Um, I wouldn't say it affects like every decision, but it definitely like has come up in certain situations, like not consistently, but here and there, where I'm like, it kind of is like it's like some days it's good, and some days it's like, oh, this certain situation like brought me to feeling this way again.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned that you think sometimes what if what you're doing now is going to set you up for a better future. Did I summarize that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So when you're doing certain actions such as work or education or even buying a certain item of clothing, do you have thoughts that prevent you from doing certain things because you think later on it's not going to lead you to a successful future?
Um, I'm gonna move into my room real quick, so if you can just excuse me, just give me a second.
Yes.
No, it's not. It's not. It can be a little bit quieter, but it's not. It's not their fault.
Oh, yes. No, that is no problem at all.
I feel like I mostly feel it. Um, I feel like I mostly feel these things with certain actions that I take sometimes when I don't listen to like my like in here, you know?
Mm,
Sometimes I can base actions a lot of what can bring me good in the moment.
yeah.
Uh, so that when I do those things in the moment and then like the next day comes and it kind of throws off like maybe like my higher like thinking where I was like, I want to do this, but then I'll rather do things in the moment where oh this will feel good. And then it throws me off and then I start going into like a circle of like, oh man, like should I have done the other like, you know, I think it's like sometimes I could be hard on myself where it's like I got to do it this way and like
Mhm.
yeah.
So, what does that feel like for you in those moments?
Um, so I kind of get a little bit of both. I'm like, in those moments, I'm like, okay, like I could have done this better. Let's like look at what I could have done better. But then I'm not gonna lie, like there's moments where it's like, oh, like why do I continue to do this constantly? And then it just starts getting like on more negative feelings, which could lead to that stress of like, am I even doing things right? It's like one thought, one negative thought leads to another, boom, 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 and then a circle, circle, circles. Instead of like doing the positive.
Yeah. When you get into that negative state of mind, do you have any sort of coping mechanisms that help you redirect into a more positive direction?
Um, yeah, I'd say like most of the time I can kind of talk to myself and be like, and realize that I am going into a negative train and just going down that train with that train and be like, hey, like that's let's start shifting perspective and look at what is positive and what we could actually turn into positive and look at a different way of the situation instead of looking through it with a negative lens. So yeah, most of the time I can get to that point. I haven't like really hit like some like really like devastating situation where I'm like, oh, I just can't, you know, because
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes it's something really big happens and your brain is just like, I can't look at the positive in this right now.
Hmm.
Um, so that's why I also incorporate God in my life because I feel like sometimes I can't do all things alone. I can't put all this life on my shoulders. So that's why I look to God and I feel at peace when I can talk to him and say, hey, like, I don't want to do this alone.
Hmm.
Help me in this situation. And yeah, I feel like there's those type of positive things that I can do to help me kind of get out of that circle of negative thoughts.
Well, I think that's great. I think it's amazing that you've come to a place where you know you don't have to handle something by yourself. So,
Mhm.
having that foundation is something that will help you when things do tend to get worse. So, when you were talking, I noticed you mentioned that in the moment, in certain moments, you think, like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be good for me. But then, maybe the next day you're like, oh, well, that's not good for, future me. So why do you think, even though in this situation, like, what, I'm going to have fun doing this, this is going to be a good time for me, why then worry about what that has, like, what impact that has on your future if you know it's something that you're going to enjoy doing?
Well, that's a really good question. um, I think it's like I could be really like hard on my you know, when you say things like that, what comes to my head is like a voice of my mom, like
Oh.
of like this very straight line forward, this is how it should be. Um so I think like most of my life, like when I made decisions of I'm gonna go to stay out this at this time late, like or I'm gonna go decide to do this, I always like felt like a little bit of a pressure because I always asked my mom. And my mom has been like very strict in aspects in life and uh, could be very conditional at times. So I think because most of my childhood was sort of like that way, what I could remember, maybe it brought a little bit of that like in my heart to do that to myself and be like, am I doing this correctly because so much of that pressure. Um, so I do think that there should be a balance of me enjoying what I'm doing in the moment, but also having the wisdom enough to be like, hey, this is good right now, but maybe I should think about my future me too and see what I can do to fulfill future me too. So it's like I think right now in my life I'm also trying to find like that balance where I'm making decisions based like I want to have fun. I don't want to completely like not, but also the other side of what can be fun but also help me that I won't feel like I'm like not doing good or something. So
Well, that's good. It seems like you're trying to find a healthy balance.
mhm.
I think that in certain moments when you are, we're just going to say, living in the moment, which is very difficult to do for some individuals. But in your situation, if you do find yourself living in the moment and actually enjoying what you're doing, bringing this thought of future me, like, oh, well, is this good for future me? We won't ever know until you get to that point. So when you're doing those actions and you're having a good time and you're enjoying yourself, it seems that you have enough awareness of you to know what's good and what's bad. So it's not like you're doing these things with intention to be unhealthy and to harm yourself. You're
Yeah.
doing them because you enjoy them. And you want to stay out till 1:30 in the morning, who cares what that's going to do to you in 5 years from now? Because you're enjoying it now. So that's just one thing I think is important to remember. If you're actually in a space where you're like, you're having a good time, you're in a safe environment, you're with safe people, it doesn't matter, what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks or if that event happened to have some sort of influence on the next 2 weeks. Because then, like you said, it starts to bring all of this stress and pressure. And
Yeah.
then you put right back where you were from your childhood with those feelings of stress and pressure.
Mhm.
So I think coming to me is a really good idea. And getting help is a fantastic idea because these feelings are not always easy to maneuver and work through. But I think you have a really great foundation to start because
Yeah.
you know what you want and what's good for you.
Mhm.
So, moving forward into the next sessions, what is something you would like to do between here and next week to kind of help yourself not worry so much about this idea of future you?
I think that it would be cool to like whenever I am doing those really cool things that I'm enjoying, to maybe write down 3 things of how it's making me feel, of why I'm doing it and why it's like something positive affecting me. So that I can look in the future, like the next morning and be like, I wrote these 3 things down that like helped me feel good in the moment and remind myself that that's how I felt in the moment. I think that would be really good to do.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
With the technology we use, you have your phone, you have your notes
Yeah.
app, you do it in the moment.
Yeah.
So then the next morning when you look at it, there is no way to try and talk yourself out of it. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's not a good idea, that I shouldn't have stayed up that late because you wrote that in the moment.
Mhm.
You were enjoying yourself then, and there's no way to discredit yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great idea, and I think you should try that. Of
Thank you.
course. Thank you for coming in to me today.
Yeah, I really appreciate you hearing me and giving me really good advice, and I think like the best thing about like these sessions is having someone like listen and really listen like how you were listening and to be positive and have someone that like cares. So I appreciate that from you. Thank you.
To do it. Enjoy the rest of your day, Tracy, and
Thank you.
excited to hear about how your homework goes.
Yes, I'll definitely let you know how it goes and the feelings that I had when I did them. So have a good rest of your day.
Goodbye.
Bye.